Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have a large group tonight for some good reasons, and as well as I see that several people are signed up to talk about personal mobility devices. We will get to that. But first, let's take a roll call.
Mayor Shapiro.
Here.
Trustee Benton.
Here.
Trustee Berg, absent. Trustee Goldstone.
Here.
Trustee Jacoby.
Here.
Trustee Metz-Childers, absent. Trustee Oppenheim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask our Sue. Oh my God!
I was looking at it.
Thank you. Newly sworn in trustee, where are you, Jesse? Right here?
Right.
To please lead us.
Yes. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now that we all know where the flag is, we have a number of proclamations that we have tonight. The first is National Police Week. I'd like to read this proclamation and then ask someone from Chief, or you can be accepting it? Okay. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the Village of Deerfield play an important role in safeguarding the rights and the freedoms of our residents and our community, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the Village of Deerfield recognizes and thanks the personnel of the Deerfield Police Department during Police Week. Now, therefore, I, Daniel C. Shapiro, the mayor of the Village of Deerfield, do hereby proclaim May 11th through May 17th, 2025 as National Police Week in the Village of Deerfield, and urge each resident to extend their appreciation to the Deerfield Police Department and all law enforcement for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to our community. Proclaim this 5th day of May 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chief.
We got more people here. Put them in a picture.
Thank you, Mayor and Board, for this recognition. And I know we regularly stand before you and routinely thank you for the help and support that you give us on a regular basis. But as it points out in this proclamation, I think it's also equally important that we thank the members of the community. Not all communities are as fortunate as we are to get the support that we see from the people that live and work here, and that is greatly appreciated as well, and we say thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You have a wonderful agency, a wonderful department. The men and the women of your department are phenomenal in keeping us safe, keeping the peace, and we appreciate everything that you do every day to put yourselves in harm's way for us. Thank you. The next proclamation is Jewish American Heritage Month. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next proclamation I'd like for us to consider is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. And our fourth proclamation tonight is Building Safety Month. I will read this proclamation and then present it to our building supervisor. Whereas the Village of Deerfield is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of our homes, buildings, and infrastructure. both in everyday life and when disasters strike. Whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes and standards to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes and standards include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Game On, the theme for Building Safety Month 2025, encourages us all to get involved and raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal building safety, fire prevention departments in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Daniel C. Shapiro, Mayor of the Village of Deerfield, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage all our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. Proclaim this 5th day of May 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Where's Steve?
And guys, thank you so much for this. This is a big thing. We talk about the safety of properties, and we think the safety of buildings. This is really important, Steve.
Thank you, and I just want to thank everybody for your continued support and sharing our dedication and commitment and passion for building safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your work and your dedication to making sure that our buildings are safe and secure. We just passed 4 proclamations in recognition of Police Week, Jewish American Heritage Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and Building Safety Month, all which are important for our recognition of these different sorts of items, heritages, our police department, and our building department. And we thank you again for your service. Finance Department report, Eric.
Normally, this is where everybody gets up and leaves. But
It's a lucky night, Eric.
All right,
glad everybody's here to hear me talk.
Did you write the agenda?
No. As usual, it's been a busy 6 months for the finance department. We have 7 employees in the department, so we are one of the smaller departments. You probably don't see us out on the streets from day to day like some of the other departments, but if you come into Village Hall or if you call in, we're probably your first point of contact. So all important work here too. Starting off with our financial reporting, we started the field work for our 2024 annual comprehensive financial report. That's our annual audit. It's done by an independent CPA firm. We have Baker Tilly engaged for this audit through the end of 2026. We have a 5-year contract with them. Been very happy with them. They'll be back to the board in June or July to present that final report for the end of 2024. We also completed the annual 2025 budget document, capital improvement plan, and revenue projections. We submitted that budget document to GFOA for its Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. As you know, we've done that for 30 plus years and gotten that award for all of those years. We continue to seek to get that award and expect to get that again for 2025. We prepared the annual levy ordinance and abated a portion of the levy related to our qualified energy conservation bonds, which we issued back in 2011 as part of the wastewater treatment plant improvement. If you recall, those are the bonds that we get 70% of the interest back from the federal government. So still benefiting from that on into the future. And those get paid off, I believe, in 2028. So we still got a few years left on those. We've also been working on the village's actuarial analysis of the police pension fund. That includes determination of the village's annual contribution to the fund. The fund was 87% funded on an actuarial basis at the end of 2023. It does look like that's going to drop slightly for 2024. It's a complicated actuarial calculation, but salary increases, actuarial experience, and assumption changes and investment returns all factor into that. The good news is we're still going to be in the very high 80%, so still in very good position with that fund, just a slight decrease there. Debt management, we made all the required debt service payments and filed that paperwork to again get those QECB rebates, so good news there. We will be, as a part of the 2026 budget process, we'll talk about additional bonds potentially there pending the projects that are chosen and the scope and timing of those projects. So we may be back with some information for that later this year or early next year. Human resources and risk management also falls under the finance department. We're currently recruiting for lateral police officers, custodian, receptionist, and a part-time telecommunicator. We've filled positions for entry-level police officer, civil engineer 1, and building division supervisor. We also coordinated the Volunteer Engagement Commission meetings. They held 5 interviews and filled 4 vacant positions. And we completed year-end tax filings for the library and village employees, and those would be the ACA health insurance forms, W-2s, and 1099s. Our wellness committee organized a flu shot and health screening event for covered employees of the village, library, and park district. That was funded through a wellness incentive offered by our insurance cooperative. We also held several lunchtime learning sessions, also funded through that same cooperative for the village, library, and park district employees. A couple newer items to talk about this time. We've been implementing Invoice Cloud, which is a utility billing portal. It allows residents additional payment options. It also allows for them to see additional usage or previous bills. A little bit more information than they were able to see in the past. We have about 6,300 total accounts, and about 1,200 of those accounts have signed up for that portal since November of 2024. So pretty good response there. So far, I think people are liking it. We're working now currently on a new resident brochure. Previously, we would send out a village greeter who would meet with new residents. She'd bring out a folder of paper and pamphlets and brochures, and some people liked that, some people didn't. We would end up mailing it to a lot of people as well. So we now have that information electronically, and we'll be able to distribute that electronically. We'll still have hard copies here if anybody does want the actual physical paper, but I think that'll be a more efficient means of distributing that information. We've started implementing vendor payments through ACH. We were finding that some of our checks were getting delayed in the mail or crossed in the mail. Sometimes they were even getting intercepted, and luckily our Positive Pay caught all that before any fraud would have happened, so there was no losses. But anything we can do to cut down on a potential fraud we're looking into. Saves on postage, vendors get paid earlier, so good from a lot of standpoints there. Finally, some ongoing tasks. We processed approximately 3,000 accounts payable invoices. We regularly generated 2,300 monthly utility bills, processed payroll for 115 village employees, 55 library employees, and 46 police pensioners. And we processed an average of 143 cash receipts each day. So happy to answer any questions there may be. I do want to say thanks to all the finance department employees. We've had a couple of long-term retirements recently, so you may see some new faces here and there, but for the most part, you've got a stable group of longtime employees who are putting out good work for you every day.
You and your team do a great job. I have one question, and I'll ask others if anyone else has any questions. 87% pension fund, that's really good.
It is, yeah really high.
We see it all the time. We're kind of used to that number. But for the people in this room, that's extraordinarily good. And you really just don't see that in communities to that level. So we take care of our budgets and our police and our people.
Yes.
Yeah. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
If we could go back to the minutes of the previous meeting, which I skipped, and I want to make a change, you'll see there's a date of May 5th. So I'm going to amend that and ask for approval of our prior minutes of our board meeting of 4/21/25 and our committee of the whole meeting minutes of March 12th and April 16th. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Bills and payroll. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Goldstone,
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby,
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim,
Yes.
and Trustee Benton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now is the time that we have for the public an opportunity to make a comment on a matter that's not on the agenda. I know that several of you are here for the items that are on the agenda, but if anyone has anything they want to say about a matter that's not on the agenda, now is your time.
Mayor, are you going to do treasurer's report?
We just did.
That was finance.
Oh, you did the 5-month report.
Let's do treasurer's report then. Thank you.
We can
Yes.
never have enough
Thank you.
Eric.
Yes.
I love hearing
Thank
Eric
you.
talk.
This is the March 2025 Treasurers Report. It represents the first quarter of the year. Just a few highlights for tonight, starting off with sales tax, which increased significantly, which is good news for this month. Unfortunately, it was non-recurring revenue, so we won't see it again next month, but we take it when we can get it, and we'll put it to good use. Water and sewer billings reflect lower usage months, very typical this time of year. Interest income continues to outperform the budget. That's just due to rates remaining higher than we had thought last year. Electric utility tax includes 2 months of receipts. You may recall last month we got paid late, so we're up to date there when we look at the 3-month results. Hotel tax reflects payments from all 6 hotels. And year-to-date state income and food and beverage tax increased a little bit from prior year amounts. Notable expenditures in March include the construction and engineering costs for the various projects going on and a deposit for the replacement of the police emergency generator. We're still early in the year, so overall the operating expenses are below the projection, but that's due largely to seasonal or once-a-year type expenditures like general liability insurance, memberships, and special events. So
Pay 'em early.
3 months in, so far so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. Any questions? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Just so everyone knows, some of you are here for swearing in. We're going to do that in just a minute, but procedurally, I'm going to make a couple comments, and then we might have a report from Kent. We're going to take a recess, and then we're going to do the swearing in. So just procedurally, that's how we're going to do it. So under old business, items for discussion by the mayor and the board of trustees. I got nothing for this meeting. Anyone? Nothing? No?
Nope.
Kent?
No, sir.
All right. So now we're going to take a recess for a couple minutes. And do we even take a minute?
Yeah, we'll disassemble, and then we'll come back together. And then we'll do our administration's oath for the new trustees.
Got it.
So is there a
Motion to
motion for a recess?
I'll move for a recess.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes. All right.
Let's recess.
Oh, I
Then we'll come back
We'll
here.
just do a stretch break, and then we'll come back.
They didn't understand the tools.
All right, we're going to go back into session. It's not yet
Time for cupcakes.
Not yet time for cupcakes. We're going to do the swearing in, and then we'll have time for cupcakes. So we're going to do administration of the oath of office.
Oaths.
Offices? All of them?
Yep. Dan's first. Come here.
Dan, please speak into the mic. It is my true pleasure as the village clerk for the village of Deerfield. I, Daniel C. Shapiro,
I, Daniel C. Shapiro,
having been elected to the office of mayor
having been elected to the office of mayor
in the village of Deerfield,
in the village of Deerfield,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the state of Illinois,
of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of mayor
of the office of mayor
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
We're now going to have newly sworn-in mayor swear in the office trustee.
Bob, you
Yeah.
want us to come there?
No,
Or you need for us to go there?
I'll come to you. Where are we going?
Right by the mic.
We're going to go to the mic.
No, I can do that.
Okay. Are you sure we can do it right here?
No, I can do it.
All right. Where's Mr. Walker?
No. The Walker's in the other room.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it that way.
Thanks, Bob.
So you're over there and I'm over here.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. I will do.
Ready?
Yes,
Can you raise your right hand?
I can.
I, Robert L. Benton,
I, Robert L. Benton,
having been elected to the office of trustee
having been elected to the office of trustee
in the village of Deerfield,
in the village of Deerfield,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the officer of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Awesome. Jay, go.
I, Jennifer Goldstone,
I, Jennifer Goldstone,
having been elected to the office of trustee
having been elected to the office of trustee
in the village of Deerfield,
in the village of Deerfield,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the office of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Bring the whole crew.
Jesse.
Anyone else?
Bring the kids up. My God, yeah.
Yeah, come on, everybody.
Get them out.
Hey, it's the first time.
So cute.
But only one of you need to raise your right hand. I, Jesse Greenberg,
I, Jesse Greenberg,
have been elected to the office of trustee
have been elected to the office of trustee
in the village of Deerfield,
in the village of Deerfield,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
in the counties of Lake and Cook.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
that
swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the office of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Come on up.
Come up. Just me?
Yes, you. Mary.
Ready? I, Mary M. Oppenheim,
I, Mary M. Oppenheim,
having been elected to the office of trustee
having been elected to the office of trustee
in the village of Deerfield,
in the village of Deerfield,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
in the counties of Lake and Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of trustee
the duties of the office of trustee
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Jesse, you want to say anything? You bring anyone with you?
I'll just say,
And
like-
after that, you can go take.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Love to my kids, Amalia and Noy, my parents, Barbara and Larry, my partner, Tessa. I'm very excited to join the Board of Trustees. I'm a self-professed government nerd. Been living in the community for 5 years. My kids are going through the Deerfield schools right now. Really love this community and can't wait to contribute as a board member. Certainly look forward to hearing from all the residents about the many issues that we are dealing with here in the village, and I look forward to serving the community again. Thank you.
Thank you. Your chair awaits you.
Cool.
I just want to say a word or two, and then we'll take another break, and this time we can have cupcakes. I want to congratulate our newly elected village trustees, or our re-elected village trustees. Your election to the office of trustee is a testament to the trust and the confidence that this community has placed in your leadership and your dedication to public service. We, as a village, we have exciting opportunities that lie ahead. We have unique challenges managing our growth of new residential and commercial developments, shaping thoughtful and responsible THC regulations, ensuring mobility vehicle policies that are safe, advancing critical capital improvement projects that support our growing community. But I know as a team, we're up for the task. I don't know what we're going to see in the next 4 years. That's always a surprise. But I know together we will handle it, and we will face it, and we will deal with it. We are up for the task because we've all seen what this community, what each of us are made up of, and how each of you cares for our future. So let's lead with humility, with thought, and with vision. Congratulations. Now let's take a break and have some coffee and ask for a roll call.
Hang on one moment. All right. Kind of waiting for Bob.
Oh, yes.
He's on his way.
We will wait for Bob. Babs? He's coming. Oh, okay, good.
He goes up the ramp.
All right, here he comes.
Mr. Benton, he's number
Perfect
one.
timing. That's a lot of discipline right there.
Mayor Shapiro.
Here.
Trustee Benton.
Here.
Trustee Berg absent. Trustee Goldstone.
Here.
Trustee Greenberg.
Here.
Trustee Jacoby.
Here.
And Trustee Oppenheim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Again, with each meeting, we offer an opportunity for the public to make a comment on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone here who wants to talk about a non-agenda item? There is not. We have a couple items on our agenda. Let's start with 2531, consideration and action on a report and recommendation of the BZA concerning a request of Richard and Therese Ehrenreich, 513 Radcliffe Circle, for zoning variation from Section 4.03F of the Deerfield zoning ordinance for property located at 513 Radcliffe Circle to permit an addition with a rear yard setback of 17.6 feet in lieu of a minimum of 25 feet. Kent?
A public hearing was held on April 3rd, 2025 to consider a request of the petitioner, Richard and Therese Ehrenreich, 513 Radcliffe Circle, Deerfield, Illinois. The petitioner is requesting permission to construct a new rear yard addition to their home with a lesser rear yard setback than permitted by the Village of Deerfield zoning ordinance. The variation, if granted, would permit the development of an 18 by 14-foot single-story rear addition that would encroach 7.34 feet in lieu of the established rear yard setback of 25 feet, creating a 17.6 foot rear yard setback. The Board of Zoning Appeals concluded that the requested variation was based on a reasonable use of the land and satisfied the standards of variation specified in Chapter 13 of the Deerfield zoning ordinance. The Board of Zoning Appeals voted 5-0 to approve the petitioner's request.
I see that the Ehrenreichs are here. Can you guys, okay. Before we get to you guys, any questions from the board or the public? Do you guys want to speak to your petition or no?
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the report and recommendation of the ZBA?
I would second.
Roll call.
Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
Trustee Greenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Yes.
And Trustee Benton.
Yes.
The report and recommendation was approved.
And we will have an ordinance approving that variance at the next.
At the next board meeting, there will be a formal ordinance. You don't have to show. You can show. But I think you have an idea of where we're going to go with the ordinance. So thank you for coming tonight. Item 2532, consideration and action on the Plan Commission's report and recommendation on a request for approval of a Class A special use for an artist studio at 816 Waukegan Road for the Clay Ant Company.
The petitioners are requesting a Class A special use for a 2,050 square foot artist studio to be known as Clay and Company at 816 Waukegan Road. The studio will offer 2-hour adult pottery classes 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. with a maximum of 20 students per class. Classes are for adults only. The studio will have up to 3 employees working at one time for a maximum of 23 people in the space during class times. Occasionally, the studio will offer all ages family workshops and children's birthday parties. The studio will also offer ceramic retail supplies, the sale of handmade art, and provide kiln services. Studio members who purchase ceramic materials from Clay & Company will have the opportunity to make use of their firing, the kiln services of Clay & Company. Will only offer this firing service to its members. The Plan Commission held a public hearing on April 10th, 2025, and is recommending approval of that requested use.
Questions by the board? Public? I see that the petitioners are here. You guys have anything you want to say?
No.
If you do, please come up and introduce yourself and speak into the mic.
There we go. I'm Marcel Steinberg.
I'm Claire Willis.
So potter, student potter. So we are just very excited to have found the space. There is a huge need around the area. I started looking to do pottery a few years ago, and there isn't really anything around. So there's a lot of interest from the community. And so we're very excited to occupy the space and get started as soon as possible.
We're very excited as well. I see Joy, you're here. And Joy is very happy about that.
Wonderful women to join other women right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the Plan Commission report and recommendation?
I would so move.
Second. I am so delighted to see another art-based business in this building. You know, it's been empty for a while, and the bead store was great in there, but this is going to be wonderful. So I applaud you. I wish you every success.
You might get a couple people signing up from this board.
Yeah.
Up and running.
We might be meeting over there.
Yeah.
A motion and a second.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Greenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Yes.
Trustee Benton.
Yes.
And Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Good luck to you guys. Awesome.
We are looking forward to it.
Yep.
So when there's a ribbon cutting or a grand opening, please let us know. And yeah.
We're fired up.
Oh, I was going to do one, but I knew I'd get a response with booze. So, all right.
For him.
Good luck. The next one that we have on our agenda is item 2530-1, an ordinance amending Chapter 22 of the Municipal Code concerning personal mobility vehicles. There are 6 people who have signed up, but that doesn't mean only those 6 people can speak. If you didn't sign up and you want to speak to this item, please let me know. But Kent?
I think we want the chief to...
Yes, Chief.
And Brian, Deputy Chief, to kind of summarize why we're here talking about these vehicles and the concerns, and the safety concerns that we've observed and trying to address with this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, and Kent, that's exactly correct. Just kind of a little bit of background and history here. Just a couple opening comments before I turn it over to Brian, who's done a lot of work on this, probably beginning about this time last year, with what was really then a new phenomena, very uncontrolled and very difficult to control, number one. Number two, there were very few laws or ordinances in place to help us enforce the actions of the people on those vehicles.
Right.
We were not alone in this adventure, basically. About the same time we were looking into it, every community around us and for miles around us were facing the same issue of how to deal with these motorized vehicles. I think everyone in the room has seen the behavior, certainly unsafe behavior. Some of these vehicles are very fast and very dangerous, and the number of calls and complaints we've gotten have escalated from this time last year, certainly as the weather begins to break now. More and more, the size of the groups of the individuals riding together has grown. We have had some, fortunately, minor incidents with injuries and accidents. So we recognized it needed to be addressed, and the question became, how do we address it? One of the big problems we faced is what we said before, there really was no regulation. E-bikes, which are e-assisted bicycles, are regulated. Bicycles are regulated. These devices that are solely electric powered and or gas powered, there was very little regulation, if not. Somebody on a bicycle on a roadway would be bound by the rules of the road. An individual on these is not. So it's a breakdown in the law. Law enforcement groups are still working with the state to try to fill some of those gaps, but under our authority as a home rule community, we can adopt an ordinance regulating these vehicles, and that's what we're trying to do. So we looked at 3 major components, and one was the target group, if you will, of those that seem to be out with these vehicles with regularity, using them in an unsafe manner, which has attracted all of our attention. The second group we wanted to address was basically the toddlers or the very young that they wanted to get a Barbie car or something. We didn't want to interfere with that. So we understood a clear and distinct difference. The third major component we wanted to look at was then passing off the use of these vehicles to the 16 and 18-year-olds, which are covered by state law. As they got older, they got a driver's license, they understood the rules of the road, that they could then operate those vehicles legally on the street if they were street legal. So what you have before you tonight is a compilation of those efforts in working with other communities, what the regulations were, and the best way that we could educate and enforce if that was to take place. Our recommendation was the core group is to ban these vehicles on the roadways within the village of Deerfield. So the strictly electric powered or gas powered would be restricted or banned on the streets, sidewalks, trails. We're going to work with the schools and the park districts to ensure that, but yet legal for the smaller kids, and then legal again when they meet that 16 and 18-year-old requirement to use those vehicles legally.
So, Chief, when you say banned, you're talking about in the context of those who have not yet received a driver's license or who are younger than 16?
Correct, no use. So,
and can you talk to us a little bit about some of the, or maybe Brian will, about some of the other pieces of the proposed ordinance?
Yep, I'll turn that over to him to step in, fill in some of those details. I know there'll be questions from you and the audience as well. We understand that this is, I don't want to say a first draft, this is what we're proposing, but we're still going to learn along the way. There may have been some vehicles that we missed within the definition, so we'll have to address those.
Right.
If it was too harsh and we're overstepping some bounds, we recognize that. We understand we'll have to do some tweaking as this moves forward. Tried to keep it simple, yet because of the laws and the different conflicts, it was very difficult to do. So Brian will cover some of the details, and then we'll be available for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor and Board. Chief covered quite a bit of it. I'll just go a little detailed more on some of the complaints and calls that we have taken over the last year. And I'm saying a number of 50 is the calls that we have had come directly into the police department. I'm sure there's been more to the village board, all you trustees, and everybody. So that's what our officers responded to. And just to give you an idea, 6 of them were traffic crashes, 4 of which were attributed to the scooter being at fault, 2 injury incidents where kids have fallen off their scooters and gotten injured. We had 1 suspected DUI where the individual fell off their scooter and got injured in the street, and then the other 41 were just random complaints basically related to unsafe riding and or other safety concerns. So just with those basics brings the concern to have the safe operation of these devices. The chief had mentioned that throughout this research and throughout looking into this that I researched other departments, other villages that have ordinances. I got 15 different villages with me in my paperwork here that have enacted some type of ordinance, whether it's restricting to just downtown business districts, to complete ban on certain devices. A lot of these ordinances don't really touch what we're touching because the devices are so new, and some of these ordinances are a couple years old. So they range just a little bit with that. Mayor, for your questions, I'll go a little bit more into detail what we're presenting for the ordinance. And I think one of the most important things is the definition of the motor-driven vehicle. The motor-driven vehicle, according to the definition in the ordinance, basically is any vehicle that is gas or electric powered, but solely operated by those means. So there's no pedal. It doesn't include the pedal, the e-bikes. So those are not exempt. Reference this ordinance. And the reason for that is the state of Illinois regulates those already. So those are not included. And then also the low-speed scooters, there is state regulations on that, but those are also restricted through our ordinance. The other important definition to bring up, the chief had mentioned, reference the, we'll call it the toy vehicles for children under the age of 8 years old, and these devices, if they're lucky, might get up to 10 miles per hour. So an example would be the little Power Wheels vehicles, like the chief was saying, the Barbie Corvettes or the Jeeps or whatever, so that parents can still have those devices for their kids. Reference compliance to the law, like the chief mentioned, we're proposing in the ordinance at least 16 years of age and or possess a driver's license to be able to operate these motor-driven vehicles on any public street, public street, sidewalk, parking lot of that nature. Every person must comply with basically the rules of the road when they are operating these devices. Thus goes along with the 16 years driver's license and older. They've learned the rules of the road through driver's ed and get a better handle of what they need to be watching for when they're operating these. And because of the speeds of these devices, they still, in the ordinance, have to go the speed limit on the streets that they will be on. Now, in conjunction with that, we are recommending that these vehicles aren't operated on any streets with a speed limit over 25 miles per hour. So that would keep them off the busier, more dangerous thoroughfares within the village. let's see, the toy vehicles, I had mentioned about that. We also went into requirements, brake lights, headlights, and all of those precautions to assist and also to make them more visible. One of the issues that keeps coming up in some of the complaints is we don't see them, we can't see them, they can't see us, and they're just, people aren't ready and still don't really expect these vehicles on the streets. We also included that anybody that is operating these type of devices must wear a helmet. That is one of the important aspects of it. Adult responsibility is within there, so I'll read this part to you. No adult who is in direct control of a minor under the age of 16 shall permit that minor in their control to violate any provision of this section. So that goes into some parental responsibility. Exemptions are any, basically any village vehicles, public works, park district, where those type of vehicles that would meet this requirement still are able to do their daily functions for like the tractors and stuff going to cut the lawns and such as that. And then the penalties, any person who violates any of the provisions will be subject to a fine not less than $100. So that goes over pretty much what the ordinance, and after many discussions that we've had with the village, no, I'm not going to be over, oh, there we go. I guess I'll stop there if there's any questions, and then I can finish with our recommendation as opposed to going into all that, or I'll just keep going then. Okay. As we said, we acknowledge the increased use of these devices, and we understand them. They're great for mobility. They can be transported on public transportation. If you jump on a bus, you can take them on a bus, on a train. We understand that, but our primary concern with this ordinance is the safety of the individuals on those devices, and in addition to the safety of our pedestrians within the walking on sidewalks and the parks and the paths or any public right-of-way. And the biggest concern, like I just said recently, is people don't see them, and they're not expected to be there. So, like I said, we had 2 committee of the whole meetings that we had extensive discussion on these with the board. So it is our recommendation that we adopt the ordinance with these much needed local guidelines because it is all silent within the state law for these devices at this time to where we can ensure the safe operation and the safety of everybody within the village on our roadways and or bike paths. So is our recommendation for this
Thank
ordinance.
you, Brian. I'm just going to offer a comment or two, then we'll open up to the public and then bring it back to the board for questions. So this has been a culmination of a lot of hard work. I know we talked about this in the fall to look at what communities are doing in trying to address and balance what's going on in our community and safety with other factors. And I applaud you and your staff for bringing this all forward to us in a proposed ordinance. We're going to have a second meeting about this in 2 weeks. Sometimes we have 2 readings, not often, but for things that might be impactful to the community or where the community wants to be heard, or the board wants to be heard, we have 2 meetings. A second reading we will have on this in 2 weeks. But I think a couple of points need to be made. We want to get something done quickly. School's going to be let out soon, and that means more kids will be on these vehicles. What are these vehicles? Solely powered by electric or motor that are not otherwise licensed or titled by the state of Illinois. And the age limit, as we talked about before, you have to be an Illinois licensed driver and over the age of 16. So I just want to make those points. And then now we'll offer to the public and then bring it back to the board for comments and questions.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, of course.
Just, I'm unclear. For the scooters, can you clarify, is that still
You have to be at least 16 years old to ride an e-scooter like a Razor?
There's different types of razors.
Right.
So there's the razor that is just propelled by the kid's feet.
Right.
There's what's called a kickstart razor scooter, which has an electric motor or battery operated motor, but you need the physical kick of the child to get that started.
So that's allowed.
So that would be allowed, yes, because
And
it
they
is
both
using
go under 10 miles an hour.
under 10 miles an hour.
But
correct.
for a scooter that is just electric,
Mhm.
no matter what the speed, your proposal is you have to be 16 or up.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything
Not-
over
not-
the 10.
There is a
Not
state law.
I want to make
okay.
sure I'm clear
Yeah,
on
so
this
thi-
because
so unfortunately, the state has made this very, very confusing.
I know
in
that
two
from
ways.
yes.
And so the state has already regulated low-speed electric scooters. The low-speed electric scooters go under the 10 miles an hour.
Under the 10.
Under.
Yes.
And the state chose, for whatever reason, and we can speculate as to why, to not regulate those that go more than 10. And it partly
that's so
might be
something.
related to revenue, and for cities like Chicago that are obtaining revenue from the rentals of the scooters that
Right.
you see, the divvy type scooters
Yes.
around.
Those are 15.
But they chose to only regulate the low speed.
And when you say low speed, that means
Under 10. Under
not
10. And what they stated in that statute is that municipalities have the right to implement stricter rules on low-speed electric scooters. And because of our home rule authority, as well as non-home rule authority, we have rights to regulate the high speed above 10. But the one thing that's odd about the provisions in the state statute is they say that we can't adopt rules that conflict. So with that state statute regarding the low speed. So the question becomes, what does conflicting mean? And it depends on how you want to look at things. But if we were, for example, to allow a 16 or 17-year-old to operate the low-speed electric scooter, there's at least an argument to be made that that regulation would not be permissive because it would be conflicting with and less restrictive than the state statute, which says you have to be 18. So in the draft that you have, you will notice that we break out the two, low speed and high speed, and there's an age differential. So for high speed, it's 16 with a driver's license, 16 and up with a driver's license. And for the low speed, we have in here 18, but that's trying to be consistent with the state law because we are subject to it, and we don't want a situation where somebody tries to challenge and we have a question about the validity of our ordinance. And so I get that it's confusing, but it's what we've been left with is a state law because the state law is
What it is.
what it is.
Chief, did you want to say something?
Just to clarify to Trustees Jacoby question, and I think for everybody, our target, and we've all seen them, we're looking at those electric scooters where 1, 2, or more people are just standing on it, throttle controlled, greater than 10 miles an hour. And the other is the electric scooters that look like the old BMX bike, dirt bike, whatever you want to call it. That's been our focus, so that's really what we're looking at. The low-speed stuff, again, that's for the people under 8 years. So we're looking at that group from 8 to 16 that choose to ride the stand-up electric scooters and or the throttle-controlled dirt bike. That's our focus, so I think that that's the most thing we're going to see. It's the most common call we've gotten so far, dealing with those types of vehicles. But then there are other things that we've seen out there, the single-wheel device.
They call those e-unicycles.
By our definition, the e-unicycle is probably banned as well.
They can go up to 65 miles an hour.
Correct. So we recognize that, and as Mr. Schuster explained, this has been very complicated. We understand there's going to be some room to grow here as we go through this. We will be flexible. We're asking the community to be flexible. Speaking with some gentlemen earlier, the question came up of enforcement. Our initial goal is going to be education, to work with the schools and the parents. We're going to rely on the parents to get this information to their kid that these devices are not legal, can't be used on the streets, parks, or the places as defined by ordinance. And ultimately, enforcement could take place with fines up to $100. We're hoping that's a last-ditch resort. We're not going to be making traffic stops on kids on scooters and those types of things. We're going to start with the education, but if there's a great denial that we can be doing this, we're going to do it. But we're hoping it doesn't need to get to that point. We know the target group. We're going to rely on the parents and the kids for that level of compliance.
Is there going to be an outreach to the schools below 16 where the kids don't take driver's ed and don't understand the rules so that at least they can understand the basics of what is included in this?
Yes, and we reached out to the schools initially here to get the information to the parents and the kids in that target group that we were looking at, and that communication, it's out there. The kids are aware of it. The parents are aware of it. So to answer that question, I think they're fully aware of what these restrictions are already, but that's what we will continue to do with informational booths at farmers market or as the summer unfolds, and fill those gaps primarily with education, with the ultimate possibility of enforcement in local court or in a front of administrative adjudication.
And John, I think it's safe to say that your officers, I have observed it. We've observed this behavior. Several of you have called us in about this behavior, watching it, and it's scary.
Our officers have had conversation. That's why we know the kids are aware of it. The conversation is not always well received. You know, the kids were going to be kids. We're taking a toy from them, no question. But the safety of it has far outweighed the ability for them to enjoy these things safely. So it's crossed that line. It's time to take that action.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm just getting my
Oh,
stuff out of the way.
So, and now we'll go through the list of the folks who signed up to talk about this. Noam? I'm not sure if that's your first or last name.
First name, yeah. Noam. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you for your time this evening. It's a little louder than I expected.
What's your last name, Noam?
David Off.
Got it.
All righty. So I just want to, first of all, say that I'm here to express my concern about the proposed ordinance related to the electric scooters and other mobility devices.
If you could just
at the same time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
At the same time, I want to generally recognize that, or share some of the same safety concerns by the board, fellow members of the community, and our police officers. By show of hands, how many members of the board here have regularly used a scooter for commuting or other device? Great, thank you. How many of you have been on a scooter for more than 15 minutes in the last month?
Oh, the last month.
Imagine if we had somebody designing a restaurant menu that hasn't cooked a meal. I think it's important for the board to pause any progress on this ordinance and be developing one in partnership with people who use these items, not for them. I regularly use a standing electric scooter along Deerfield Road to get to the train, as do other commuters that I ride with. Due to our road network, Deerfield Road is the only viable option for me. My scooter is 250 watts, has a limited top speed of 15. When I'm passing other people, I slow down, ensure a safe and courteous passage for all. I usually say hi and exchange a friendly nod. There are many other people who live in the village, who work in the village, who rely on these types of electric devices, also to resolve an issue known as the last mile transportation. I think it's important to distinguish responsible users from concerns related to dangerous, high-speed, group joyriding activities expressed by our law enforcement this evening. The proposed ordinance is also in excess of state law and remiss of some key technical criteria. State law limits the use of unlicensed electrical motors to 750 watts, which wasn't included in any ordinance communications I read. Many of the pedalless electric motorbikes that I've seen have a proposed, as part of the proposed ordinance, exceed 1,000 watts. Many e-bikes that would not be included also have thumb throttle controls that would still be out there. Overall, the proposed ordinance seems to target a symptom, not the problem. I think the real problem is that we have a gap in local micromobility. People want energy sustainable, socioeconomically equitable alternatives to traditional car dependence. I appreciate the board's concern for public safety. I deeply care about that too. I hope that any final ordinance, if any, includes voices of people who rely on these mobility devices for essential transportation. Let's thoughtfully address the real problems, not overfixate on symptoms. Improved infrastructure for vulnerable road users, safety education, and enhanced enforcement of existing laws will yield better safety results, in my opinion. We share a vision for a safe and vibrant community. I'm hopeful we can carefully and judiciously enhance our environment in ways that promote our values and meet our collective and individual needs. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Noel. Yeah. Jordan Segale, did I say your name correctly?
Close enough. Good evening. My name is Jordan Segal. I live at 1695 Portage Pass. For those of you that don't know, that's in North Trail. So every morning when my wife and I walk our dogs, and every afternoon after school, we take our lives into our own hands. As the last speaker spoke, this is really a problem about the kids at the high school more than anything else. We see them riding on the sidewalks very disrespectfully. They ride down the streets in packs. They don't care about any of the pedestrians. I've seen mothers with strollers have to dodge out of the way of these bicyclists. And I don't know what the right answer is. This may not be the right answer given the last speaker, but there needs to be some kind of answer. I did want to point out, looking at draft 4 in the proposed ordinance 22103B, and I happen to be a lawyer, so I apologize for that in advance. I wonder why Section 2 isn't Section 1. Section 2 says motor-driven vehicles, apostrophe S, it should be just S, will not be driven on a sidewalk, parking lot, bike path, park, or any other public property within the corporate limits of the village of Deerfield. That should be the first rule, right? That we don't want these things on sidewalks. My wife saw an elderly person walking the other day on Waukegan get ran off the sidewalk by one of these bikes. That should be number 1. Number 2 can be that no person under 16 can have one of these. It just seems to me that the default should be that these shouldn't be on the sidewalk, and perhaps that would solve the problem of the last speaker. Perhaps he's not on a sidewalk, but I do see teenagers on sidewalks with these motorized vehicles. The last point I want to make is we do see a one pack, and some of their vehicles have pedals on them. That would not be reached by this. They're popping wheelies in the middle of Portage Pass. It's a busy street. They can't control these bicycles, and if a mother walks out with a stroller, my wife walks out with our 2 mini poodles, it's going to be a disaster. So I applaud the effort. I think it goes part way. I think it could go more. And I'm also a little disappointed to hear that enforcement is going to be limited. There's a lot of things going on in North Trail, and it's only a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Next speaker who signed up is Dennis Schroeder.
I live right down the street on Deerfield Road. I got 2 kids at Wilmot. No, I'm sorry. They're in Caruso now. And they do ride scooters. Okay. They do not fly. They do not speed. They're respectful. I taught them to be respectful. But I know for a fact that half these children that my kid hangs out with, their parents don't care what they do. So I just don't feel like there's got to be certain rules, I don't know, for certain kids and certain for others. But I also do see there's a handful of kids that are on these e-bikes, and you can find them anywhere you want. You can go to Walgreens. You can go to Jewel. You know where they hang out. Why don't you go do something about them? They're the problem. Handle the problem children, not the ones that are respectful for people. Do you know what I'm saying? We just moved here from the Chicago, and we love it out here. It's peaceful. It's quiet. My kids are getting along with everybody, but then now you're starting to take stuff away already. I mean, I just bought them. They're $600 a piece. What am I going to do with them now? You know what I'm saying? It's just... And the other thing you got to be concerned about, I was a kid once, and I was very dangerous as a kid. I ride dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, I drag race cars. You get a cop behind one, these kids, they're going to fly, and they're going to get hit by a car. So think twice about what you want to pass, because it might cause more problems when these kids run. And they go down Waukegan Road or Deerfield. I mean, these cars are doing 60 miles an hour down Deerfield. I see it every day. They might see a police officer and just decide to dart out and cross the street. So, and these e-bikes can do 60 miles an hour. My son wanted one. I told him no. So I know how dangerous they are. But some of these scooters, they're not dangerous. My kids do 10 miles an hour. I have a throttle one. I ride one with them. They go 10 miles an hour. Some do 20, some do 30. But that's what I'm saying. Where do you cut it off? And how are the police officers going to know which ones they are? Are they going to stop everybody? Or how about if the parents are with the kids? Because that's a family outing for me. So, I mean, just curious how it's going to go and how they're going to set the rules on it. So, just the only thing I'm really concerned about is someone running from the police officers and maybe causing even worse of a problem than what it could have been in the first place. So that's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your perspective. Thank you. Carol Merrill.
Hi, I'm Carol Merrill. I just have sort of two questions regarding scooters because I ride a scooter. And one is sometimes when I'm riding in the street, a car will come up and I will go on the sidewalk just to be careful. Is that allowed? And then second, if a scooter, my scooter I think can go up to 15, 17, but I am lucky if I get up to 10. So are they basing it on the speed that you're going, or are they basing it on the scooter itself? So, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Jacob, how do I pronounce your last name, Jacob?
You can't reach the mic. I got a small one in here for you.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Mm-hmm. It's all right. In a couple of years, he's coming for your job and mine, too.
Hello, my name is Jacob Betcher. I'm a citizen of Deerfield, and I personally own a motorized scooter. I use it to transport myself to school. I also use the scooter to get to my tutor so I can get better grades in school. I would like for you all to consider the fact that I am always very polite when I am riding my scooter. I don't go on a lot of busy streets, and when I am next to a busy street on my way to my tutor's house, I always slow down, most of the times turn off the scooter and go around the person. And I can always go around the person. I would like for you all to consider the possibility of a license or some sort of proof that they can handle the electric scooter, or some proof that it is for academic or job related times. Thank you.
Jacob, you did a good job. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No, I wanted to make it short and sweet.
Excellent.
Good job. So who's Andy? How is Andy related to you? All right, Andy. Tough act to follow.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, you want me to speak because he said everything I was. Thank you for the opportunity. Just to echo my son's views, I share that the parents and kids and community want to move around the village safely. I do. I am a runner, and so I don't love it when I have to jump out around when you have e-bikes and things. So I think there's a differentiation between the scooters and the e-bikes, and I understand that the state law makes it complicated to deal with those differences. But if there's some middle ground that we can find where there's either you graduate from being an 8-year-old to a 16-year-old, it feels like you're free at an 8-year-old and you're free at 16, but you're not free between those two age brackets. So if there's some middle ground that we can find, that there's an opportunity from either a graduated licensing system, similar to drones, where there's a more capable vehicle, requires more education or get closer to the rules of the road. Alternately, some sort of time-based system where it's more school within bounds of time to and from school. I know that won't address some of the complaints, but at least it's more focused on when they might be occurring. Then finally, treat it like a real motorized vehicle. So if there's fines, if it's in violation of a rule or regulation, particularly around some sort of speed infraction or unsafe use, because I think that's principally what the law is trying to get to, is safe use of the vehicles, have a fine in traffic safety school. My dad was a traffic safety school instructor, and I always made fun of my friends that had to go have Mr. Batcher tell them, use your turn signal and use all that kind of stuff. I'm sure the kids will make fun of the ones that violate the rules too. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope we find a middle ground for successful use for all the vehicles for everybody in the village.
Thank you, Andy. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this topic that hasn't signed? Yes, sir, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is David Eisen. I want to just make you aware of 3 incidences that I witnessed. I really don't know, from my perspective, how to deal with these things, but I want you to be aware of them. First off, I've had 2 dogs, and when I walk my dogs at Jewett Park out here and at Woodland, invariably I almost get hit, or my dogs almost get hit by these vehicles. And these kids, they're all under 16. They have no ill will. I've stopped these children every single time it's happened. I've explained to them, as if I was their father, what they should and shouldn't do with this, and they need to be careful. And they seem to listen to me, and then I see them doing it again the next week. The 3rd incident is even more important for you to be aware of. There are a lot of kids underage. Their parents are not supervising these vehicles with their kids. On 2 occasions, there was one young man, I believe he was between 11 and 12 years old. He came out in front of my car at night, and I almost killed him. And my wife was in the car with me, and I said, "You got to sit here for a minute. I want to talk to this kid." I scared the hell out of him. And I sat down with him on the curb, and I did the same thing, as if I was his father. I don't know the kid's name. 3 nights later, same kid, Waukegan Road, gets hit. Walks away, got up, I saw him walk away. This is happening. I just want everybody to be aware of this. These kids are not supervised, and I don't know what to do about it, but this ordinance needs to take all this into consideration. The parents have to take some responsibility here. I'm concerned about the kids.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, thanks so much for addressing this. My name's Todd DeStichter. I live at 354 Shadow Creek Lane in Riverwoods, and I have the good fortune of having a 7th grade son at Caruso Middle School, and so I have the inside scoop of what's going on among middle school boys mostly. And let me tell you, Mayor Shapiro, you are not exaggerating when you're saying that this is coming, okay? It's here already, but the wave is about to hit, right? Like every time I'm talking to my son, I'm carting a handful of his friends around in the back of my vehicle. They're talking about these vehicles. They're shopping for them. They have plans to buy. I encourage you to approve this ordinance, and I also I also ask that you continue to give the Deerfield Police Department as much support as you possibly can in a forward-leaning enforcement of this with very clear rules. I understand the appeal of trying to have a nuanced approach to this, but I just think in practical terms, in order to enforce an ordinance like this, it has to be as clear-cut as possible. And by my lights, the way it's written up in this draft is fine. If you're not 16, if you don't have a driver's license, with the exception of little kids riding around in Barbie cars or whatever, you can't ride a motor vehicle on the public streets or sidewalks or pathways at Deerfield. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Ramon Abraham. I'm a parent of 2 Wilmont school students, and I'm concerned about the recent ordinance restricting electric scooters for minors. Both of my children have scooters with a max speed of 12 miles an hour that I control, so anywhere between 8 to 12. They're Segway scooters. You know, we made those purchases specifically for the fact that we thought they were age appropriate. We could control the speed. You know, they wear helmets, they follow traffic laws, they stay on the sidewalks, and under this rule, they won't be allowed to ride that until they're 18, which feels unnecessarily restrictive. Our neighborhood streets are narrow with no bike lanes, and pushing the kids onto the street creates more safety risks, not fewer. DPS 109 has been actively promoting the Let Grow initiative, which encourages independence and resilience. This ordinance seems to move, opposite of that direction. And look, we hear a lot about the safety. I fully agree. I think kids riding bicycles without helmets is also wrong, right? We should have an ordinance that forces kids on bicycles to wear helmets, and our police officers should be empowered to stop them over and give them a citation or give them a warning. Bicycles also pose risks when misused. At nighttime with a bicycle without a light and a helmet, that kid could run, dart out onto the Waukegan Road in just a pedal bicycle, and the same thing can happen and get hit. I think that gentleman is doing the right thing by having a conversation with the kids. But it just feels like collective punishment to me. There are a group of kids that are on these electric bikes, right, that are going really, really fast, and with just one little modification can go 50 or 60 miles an hour. Can the ordinance look at tire size, right? A lot of the low-speed electric scooters that go 10 to 12 miles an hour have 6-inch wheels. If a scooter has larger than 6-inch wheels, or if electric bicycle's on a 12-inch or 21-inch wheel diameter, right? That thing goes fast. So I think we can be a little bit more creative, or maybe we could kind of look into how we could create, a safe space for all our children to continue to grow within our community. This community is a walkable community for a reason. I live on the corner of Pine and Bayberry. I probably see 100 people and kids walking back and forth and enjoying their time out on the streets, and I just don't understand how this ordinance is going to continue to encourage that. So, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak on this? Thank you to everyone who stepped up and voiced your opinion on this. This is what we need to hear, both favorable or unfavorable, or pros or cons, or different approaches to this ordinance. And we appreciate you taking the time out of your night to do this. Board, what do we think? Elaine?
I have thoughts. So I'm all for safety, 110%. But I'm also all for getting kids off the couch and their screen. I'm also for our environment. I want to see more kids walking and biking. I want to see kids empowered to get to soccer practice on their own, on their scooter. I've been talking with parents, and I think that we have work to do on this. I think that someone said it, there is an age group that the scooter is their way to get around town. It's their way, their entree into adulthood. I think the town can and should think about ways of how we educate before we ban. I think the town should think of ways how to regulate before we ban. I think that we are too quick to become the land of no. I think that there is so much out there. We have Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes that go 20 miles an hour. That's fine. Class 3 goes 28 miles an hour. And the way this is written, I think you're allowing that, but that shouldn't be. So perhaps it's something We have to separate out bikes and scooters, speed for bikes rather than age, and I think we need to educate before we ban and see how that goes.
Okay.
Elaine, I really agree with you that kids should be out. They should be locomoting on their own, but for generations, kids have pedaled their bikes and they have scooted their scooters with their feet. And I don't think it's necessary that they are electric or they gas powered, and I don't believe that our regulation in this regard is in any way preventing children from being outdoors or being independent. This is a new kind of technology that has been adopted, that people enjoy, but it is by no means completely necessary for allowing young people to be off their screens. Unfortunately, I think that education has already taken place to a large extent. I looked at a informational packet that the police department sent out last fall through the schools and to parents. It completely listed very carefully all different kinds of categories of electric devices that kids could use, how they're supposed to use them. What we're hearing and what I have been hearing for months from lots and lots of residents is that these things are being used in a very, very, very dangerous way. I don't want to see kids riding these in the street. At the same time, I don't want to see them riding them on the sidewalk and mowing down other people. I don't want to see kids get hit by cars. I don't want to see older people, any kind of people, get hit by these vehicles. So I think, either. I know you don't. Safety is what we're looking at. I think we do need to regulate, but by banning these, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. We are setting up the police department, if we're looking at the size of tires, if we're looking at the categories of speed, we're setting them up to do nothing all day but regulate these vehicles. I think it's just an impossible lift, an impossible task for our police department to be dealing with all the other things that they need to do. I think that at this point, what we're starting with here, you may call it the land of no, but I am happy to take responsibility for saying no, do not mow people down on the street with your 50-mile-an-hour motorcycle. I am very happy to take that. What we need to do, even if we enact this, is educate, and we're still going to have problems for a period of time. At this point, what we need to do is clarify for all our residents exactly what vehicles we're talking about, exactly what we're allowing and what we're not allowing. It's pretty sad, the loophole that we have to work through with the state regulation. But I think it's pretty clear that speed is going to be, and power of these vehicles is going to be the determining factor. I am a little bit concerned if people, adults, who would be legally allowed to use these devices through our ordinance, who are using them to commute to the train station, can't go down Deerfield Road. I do have a problem with that. I know that we talked about limiting the places where we want these kind of vehicles in the road because we wanted safety for the people who are riding them. We don't want people on the busiest, fastest roads where they could be hit by a car. However, if that's the main way to get to where you're commuting and you're trying to commute not using an automobile, I'm applauding that, and we don't want to make that harder for people. And especially people who are, by all other measures, qualified to utilize these vehicles through our ordinances. I think the police have pointed out to us the target audience that we have. And yes, it's too bad we're picking out an age group, but in order to allow that age group to ride these vehicles in some kind of way that we're enforcing and regulating and watching every minute, I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's practical as a community, as a municipality, with our police department. I just do not. And I think it's the lesser evil to say you just can't use them than continuing to put people in danger.
Okay. Jesse, we'll work from your side. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard from a lot of commenters tonight, and what I also reached out to neighbors and friends, Deerfield residents, was very much, I think, a call of let's be pragmatic about this. I think coming at it with a heavy hand of banning punishes people who are have good behavior, who are using this technology wisely and appropriately. I mean, this body had a discussion about the use of AI a couple of weeks ago. That technology is here, and it's really about responsible use. And I think this technology is part and parcel of where we're going. I think there's a lot of kids who, perhaps under the age of 16, need to use this to get to their tutor, get to school, get to friends' houses. They use the scooter properly. And there's plenty of bikers who, as I was taking my daughter who's got her driver's permit out the other day, were zigzagging down the side street of I live on Charing Cross. It's a small side street. I was very nervous about the irresponsibility in the way those kids bike. When I lived in Chicago, lots of people were biking irresponsibly and had some very close, uncomfortable calls, as the one gentleman who spoke about his close encounter with a scooter. I think that there are many positive and redeeming aspects of the draft ordinance. I'd love to see us take a more thoughtful approach. Obviously, safety is the number one priority here. When we're talking about speed limits, what streets these vehicles can traverse on, helmets, lights. I would be all for a registration system where information could be shared with those who have these scooters, and we can collect data on people who have these scooters so we can make sure that they're using them properly. At the end of the day, there are certain things that a body can't legislate. Whether parents take it seriously to ensure that their kids are properly educated about using these vehicles, whether the kids themselves take it seriously. We've got to do our best to put guideposts in place. But I think the ban is where I have an issue, and I'd like to see us take a little bit more of a thoughtful approach.
Bob, you got anything?
Yes. At the beginning of this meeting, I talked to Kent, and I had a couple of people who were banging on me to regulate because specifically in the park near which they live, these kids were speeding down the paths in the park and scaring some of the people who were trying to walk in the park. This particularly, I explained, was not going to be the province of our police department, but sharing it, and I'm understanding that we are doing this at this time too, sharing with the park district for the responsibility of patrolling the parks, which would otherwise be out of any jurisdiction, is something that the park district is working on. And I applaud that. And to have partners who are helping us in this same kind of thing, it takes a burden off, or at least we hope they do, off the police department and puts it where it belongs with the people who use the parks. So that was my concern.
Jen?
Okay, so I have a few things I want to talk about. One is, I guess I don't understand why it can't be regulated by speed, because the police department regulates us always by speed. When we're going 35, I got pulled over on my way to a meeting. I was going 37 or 39 on Pine Street. I need to go 25. I get pulled over because I was going too fast. So I don't understand why these can't be regulated by speed as well.
On the sidewalk?
Not on the sidewalk. I'm not talking about the sidewalk. I'm just saying in general, I think that would be a threshold to me, okay? The second thing is then this is an idea that I have, and I don't know how realistic it is, but I was in another city this weekend, and what they have done, because of this problem, and they don't have room to make bike lanes on their roads, they have created what they call bicycle boulevards. They reduce the speed on these bicycle boulevards to 18 rather than 25, which is everywhere else, which gives everybody a little, I'm on a different
speed.
The car speed from 25 to 18 gives everybody a little pause. Wait, I'm on a different type of road. We're all used to driving 25 through these roads. And then those roads are designated as roads that people can ride their bikes, their e-bikes, what have you. And I thought that it might be an idea to try to implement something similar in our little community. We don't have room.
So in the state of Illinois, you cannot do that. The state prohibits you from reducing the speed limit below 20 miles an hour unless it's a business district.
So then...
So was this city in Illinois?
No, it was not.
That's right. So in Illinois, you cannot lower the speed limit below 20 miles an hour.
So make it 21.
I'm just saying that.
Okay.
So you're restricted on what we can do.
I get that.
Right.
So my point is make it 21. Make it an odd number between 20 and 25, where people are going to pause, like, why is that the speed limit? And they had signage everywhere that said this is a bicycle boulevard. And I think that may eliminate or help some of the issues that the first gentleman was talking about on his commute, getting from his home to the train station.
But how would you ensure that the young people who are riding these bicycles in a dangerous and fast way, how would you ensure that they use that road?
Well,
and would that be a road where people lived? Would people want us to say, your road is the one that we're going to send all the crazy people on the bikes on?
Well, I think you'd have to come up with a path. It's no different than living along a bike path. You'd have to come up with a path that works for everybody, right?
And there's got to be some sort of a training or a class, like when Students Against Drunk Driving came around, the schools incorporated classes teaching kids the importance of not drinking. When Deerfield High School allowed students to park, kids have to take a 3-hour class about the safety of driving. Why can't we come up with some sort of a class teaching kids how to be better scooter drivers or e-bike drivers, and why can't we put signage up at the beginnings of all the parks saying you must walk your bike, just like there's signs at the Botanic Gardens. Get off and walk your bike. So we need to educate first before we ban, and there are ways to educate without just sending a flyer home.
So what I'm seeing from the board is the same thing I'm seeing from the public, and that is this is complicated.
It's complicated.
It's not easy. Our opinions and your opinions are all over the map. But there are a couple of concerns that I have that are overriding, and we will talk about this again. One is schools letting out soon.
Right.
Some of our suggestions are short term, and some of them are long term. We're not going to achieve even the best, most thoughtful long-term suggestion in the next month before school's coming out. Whether it's reducing speed limit or many of these are long-term things that we got to keep our eye on, but we're not going to be able to solve in the next 6 weeks or whatever before school is out. The other thing is, there are a couple good suggestions that we can think about and how we incorporate. Maybe there's something about using certain roads to go to work, and I think that's something we should think about. Or maybe certain roads can have someone on these vehicles if they're over 21 or something like that. My concern is we get too bogged down into the details.
Right.
It becomes an enforcement help by our police department. So we're trying to kind of thread the needle with balancing, and that doesn't exclude continuing to educate our kids.
Right.
That doesn't exclude trying to figure out longer-term solutions. It doesn't exclude trying to get Jacob to tutoring or dealing with that. These are all things that we can try to address. I know I'm being a little pushy, but I think we should try to get something close to what we're kind of comfortable with before school's out. And then deal with our other long-term goals, or deal with tweaking it, or modifying it, or revising it as necessary. I am concerned about the safety of our walkers, our bikers,
Right.
our people on the sidewalks, and I'm not thinking that if we regulate this, I don't think it's a binary. I don't think we're taking away kids' independence.
Right.
I think kids will find a way to be independent, regardless of whether we regulate, ban, restrict, or whatever. But I am concerned that, as the chief talked about, the incidences, the safety incidences,
Absolutely.
have skyrocketed in the
Absolutely.
last 6 months. Well, not during the winter, but after, over the course of the year, say. And that concerns me.
And, when we talk about safety and we talk about the police doing their job and trying to reduce these types of incidents, we don't have so many wonderful Good Samaritans who will talk to the kids and try to educate them. And the police don't have any power to tell the kids anything until we have a regulation. We need to have a regulation for the police to act on making sure the behavior is safer.
We're all in agreement on that.
I would like us
agree
to
on that.
continue to take this to the schools. I know that this ordinance was taken to the schools or publicized or put on our web. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep educating with respect to our consideration of this. And after that,
At a certain point, it's a jurisdictional issue. We cannot force the schools to do anything.
no, we can only educate. We can
We
help
can
them educate.
ask, we
Yes.
can support,
Yes.
we can educate them, but you must understand, and I know you do because you've worked with the schools as well, they've got a lot on their plate right now. This will not be their number one
Right. No, this is our
item.
job. This is our job.
This is right, exactly.
We'll do our job the best we can to get people aware. And I know we've done that since the fall when we had that flyer. We've had 2 committee of a whole. We advertised this meeting in our consideration. We'll talk about it again in 2 weeks. I think there is something to be said about, in a more longer term thing, registration or licensing or.
But you have to understand what that involves. It involves classes, it involves staff, it involves a program, it involves the village.
Safety.
A lot of resources.
Of course it is, but the village has not licensed bicycles since when, the 1970s?
So I'm not saying, I'm saying there's something to it for us to consider. I'm not saying we need to. I'm just saying
We
it's
need
an
to
idea.
understand what a big deal it is.
Yes. So there's a lot of merit to what everyone is saying. And it is not an easy thing. And Kent, did you have something?
I just want to tell you, guys, every town around us is doing this, struggling with this same thing. It's a thing. So don't feel like you're in a weird place.
Yeah,
We're all struggling with this.
Right.
And
because everybody wants to do what's right. We all are coming from the same place.
You're
We want safety
recognizing
for
the
town.
safety. You're recognizing the safety issue, and we're all recognizing that. And our physical makeup, and as you and I have talked about, is different than Lake Forest. It's different than Highland Park. The physical street structure and how that works is different. But we're all struggling with this thing, and I think you just keep trying to do your best. And that doesn't mean you're one and
not
done.
going to be perfect.
It's not one and done. And
Right.
then you tweak it. Then you work at it. But there's also a problem. You guys are seeing a problem. We're all seeing a problem, and God forbid, we know we've had injuries
And
we're
close
seeing it.
calls.
And that's going to continue.
Jen.
I just want to know who have we spoken to at the school 109? Like, I know we've been advertising online, but has anybody called the principal there?
Our police department, we have a presence in the schools all the time.
David, we've talked to their communications division. We've talked to their superintendent for admin and finance.
Yeah, I've met with both communication departments.
109 and 113.
Yeah, both district has shared information with parents.
Well, we could
But
ask Jacob
sharing
what he's heard in
information.
school.
Hold on, guys.
And I'd like to also know if we've talked to the PTO, the president of the PTO of both those schools.
Well,
We don't
probably
have
not.
direct contact.
I don't know that we've reached out to every stakeholder, but I'm glad that the number of people who are in this room are speaking up. And if there's anyone who wants to come in 2 weeks, let them come. I mean, we haven't talked to necessarily all the businesses or all the PTO folks. That might not be a bad suggestion, but has Lauren reached out?
Of course.
So our SRO
We have
for
SROs
109
at
Lauren
both.
is John's going
I
The
get
school
that, but
resource officer's been in touch with the schools, and I know the PTOs, I don't know to what extent they're aware of it. It's been in the newsletter for the last week or two, so they know it's out there. We're talking a lot about education, and that education's got to lie somewhere other than in the police department.
right.
It's got to lie in the home or at the schools. We start talking about registration in schools, we're absorbing liability. We're now saying you can go out on the bike and do what you passed your test. The education doesn't belong with us, so it's going to take, if that's the big part, it's got to come from a group. We talked about before you could park at the high school, taking certain classes. That wasn't the police, that wasn't the village, that was groups of parents stepping up forward. So until that happens, we'll be overwhelmed.
Chief, just a quick question. I mean, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that there's a sense that the vast majority of what's drafted is really positive and achieves what is intended. I mean,
the intention was, we mentioned the target group.
Yes.
We also talked about simplicity. It just blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, right before your eyes.
Right.
This is not simple.
Right.
So
We
is
don't
there a
want to
sense-
exclude kids like that or your kids.
Jesse, what was the
Well, I
question?
just was going to ask, between now and the next meeting, I mean, we'd love to work with you on some ideas and some changes that we could bring back. I just want to make
Absolutely.
sure that you're open to some
So
of this.
it's with the chief's help, we've brought this forward.
Great.
What I would ask each one of us to do, if you have any written suggestions, send them to Chief, send them to Kent, and we'll try to see.
And Mayor, I would
try
ask
to
that of
put
the
something
speakers.
together.
I would ask that of the speakers as well. Some of these ideas, if they would put that
Send
in
them
writing and present that to us.
I mean, they're all great.
So we have
They're
to-
all valid because people are well intentioned and concerned, and no one's coming from a place of ill will or anything. So bring the suggestions forward in writing, and then we'll have something else to talk about.
And
in
it's
2
very
weeks.
complex. We talked about speed, but I don't see our officers running radar on scooters. That's the only way to regulate speed.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's very, very complicated.
You can't.
Every one of the things we heard here tonight, we've had it in discussion as a group collectively. And as Kent said, this is surrounding us. Everybody's having these exact same conversations. There were towns watching this very closely to see where it ended up, because this was one of the more strict that's come out of the Chicagoland area. So it's people are watching.
On scooters, I'm going to have to defer to the parents. My kids are adults. On the scooters, from the research that I did, the Razors, the majority of the e-scooters that are for middle school age, hover around 10 to 12 miles an hour. That was the popular speed for that age group.
Yep.
So that's why I'm saying let's separate out and the scooters
And
from
that's
the bikes.
that's foot powered. That's not electric.
No, electrics. It's electric.
You start with your foot, and then you
Push with your foot, and then there's a
Right.
you kick it, and it
But,
goes.
but those
on.
aren't, if you push with your foot, those aren't solely assisted,
Right.
solely motorized by a motor or electric. So those wouldn't be banned.
Going from
I got news for you.
It's a kickstart.
The bikes that the Caruso kids like to ride, some of them, they have pedals.
Okay.
And so all the work that you're doing here on the kids on the...
It's not your, it's we.
We.
We're doing the work, not you.
Well, you didn't take any of my suggestions yet, but those would be excluded.
Yes, they
And
would.
the kid at the bike store said all the kids know they just have to cut the wire. And so they're not even part of this group that you're trying to target.
So we are working together. We may have
Solve the problem.
differences,
Right.
but we are working together.
And I think one of the critical parts of this is to clarify the various specific types of vehicles. And we're trying to generalize to cover everything, but I do believe we are going to have to, within the ordinance, break down some more specific examples.
That's
and
why I
say,
like the
this
speed
is
rather
covered,
than pedal.
This is not covered.
Pedal's not going to work
Well,
because that's the
And
loophole.
in some of those cases, I think the pedal is like the scooter. It starts it.
And that's
you
it.
don't have to pedal.
Right, so you're not
E-bikes,
addressing it.
it assists in the pedaling. Most of these, once you start the motor, it's over and done. So those,
Right.
we would tweak that to
Right, so
include.
that has, right, because the way I read the
Because once they
ordinance,
start
it-
and they're working off a throttle, it's
Okay.
illegal.
All right.
Right, so that
that's
has
a
to
great
be
suggestion.
Yes, I
right?
mean, I went over to the bike store to learn more about this after I read the ordinance as it's written. I'm like, okay, so they're not pedaling, but there's a throttle, so that wouldn't work.
So let me
So we're working very hard, and there's a loophole.
let me throw it to
Speed,
you guys
there's
what I
not
do
a
all the
loophole.
time. Do not sacrifice the good for the perfect, because you
Right.
will not solve the perfect
Right.
with this one, guys. You
Yes.
won't. You just
yes.
won't. You won't
But
get it perfect.
we need to work on this. I'm not happy with what it is right now.
And you're not alone.
Right? If we
Town's
took a,
working on this. Every town's
Right.
trying to do this.
Right.
And part of it is also, again, what we're left with from the state, which hasn't looked at this holistically to say, put aside cars and
Right,
trucks.
right.
If you're talking about bicycles, scooters, all sorts of these types of alternatives to cars, they have done it piecemeal
Right.
for the last several decades. And they're doing it now with the low-speed electric scooters, and not all of them. So part of it is we're confined by the state law of what our authority is, what we can and can't do. And based on that, we're never going to, we're not going to be able to close every loophole to get a perfect ordinance.
It's not gonna be perfect.
But what we can do is regulate certain vehicles, and yes, there will be some loopholes, and that's a Springfield issue.
Right.
But we can amend our ordinance as we need to.
And we said at the beginning, that's part of the intention. We know this is in the early stages. The final product's not, 6 months from now, it could look very different.
So I'm going to ask a couple things. I would ask that for anyone to submit comments so that we can bring back an ordinance that hopefully addresses most, if not, well, it's not going to be all, many of the suggestions. And then I'm going to ask staff to try to put that together in the next week or so that we have time to chew on it before the 19th.
So please send that to Dan. Copy me. That
Good.
way he can track it. I can track it, and then
Perfect.
I can get it to the staff if you've got suggestions on it.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we will work on this together. Any other comments on this one? Yes.
So get to the mic. He's got the mic.
Okay. I think what Jacob just said is that his school never informed him about this meeting. Okay. Okay. Thank you for telling us that. We know what we can do and what we should do, and we will see whether we can reach out to have the schools provide more information to its students.
But it's not their job to do our job.
Right.
Right.
So we
Or
can
our
ask.
job
We
to
can
do
ask
their
them.
job.
We can ask them
To be
Correct.
a partner with us.
I'm just saying that it's different when you hand somebody a flyer versus having a conversation, or sending them an email versus having a conversation. And I'm just saying we should include the schools in these conversations. I'm not trying to pass the buck.
And we're trying. But again, they've got a lot of their stuff they're working on, guys. Right?
Oh, for sure. I understand.
So we're trying.
And we do have staff. We have SROs in both school systems. There is a police officer employed by the village who works in District 109.
Have they been speaking to
Absolutely.
Yes.
And one that works in District 113.
Yes. Yep.
I think that's the challenge. We found out from Patch, like we didn't know about this, but obviously there's a lot of impact to the students, and I think that's where we were also at the school board meeting, like trying to figure out how to get the students to be informed and buy into what the new whatever's
Right.
going to be
Yes.
is the challenge.
Yes.
And all of what I heard is that what you're trying to identify is how do we talk to the preteens that are not operating these vehicles safely, and that's not the SRO's job. That is a
Parents.
community parent,
Right.
and that's what I think all of this is trying to figure out is how do we get that conversation in the right places with the right people, and it's hard. I just don't know if like we need to notify the schools the right schools either. Like it's not getting to the person who needs to know.
Well, and again, I would say we have, David, how many people follow our weekly e-blasts? 3,500?
Yeah, a little over 3,000.
So this is a village thing, not a school thing. I would say, and I would continue to encourage people, sign up for the village e-blast, sign up for the village e-newsletters, and pay frickin' attention to it. Some people just let it fly by, right? And that's the challenge. We're talking about important stuff, important public safety issues. And I can't, I'm going to stop now. My soapbox, I need to back off.
Are we ready to move on?
Yep.
Item 2533, a resolution to purchase water meters from Midwest Meter, Inc.
Thank you, Board. As you know, we budget every year for water meters. Every, say, 10 gallons we get from Highland Park, we need to account for 10 gallons being sold to commercial and residential customers. We have about 7,000 in the village, about 6,400 of residential, 600 commercial. And every year we budget money to replace those meters, upgrade those meters, test them to find out which ones are low reading or high reading, replace those to make sure we've got accurate counts. And also we purchase them for developers. So if a new house goes up, we provide that meter, and then the contractor or developer pays us for that meter. Usually it's about $100,000 annually, but with the developments that are going on, including Parkway North and LeClaire Estates, we did bump that up to $250,000 this year. This also includes some meters left over for Lake Cook Crossing and other potential developments. So since we historically used Badger water meters, we've got over 99% of the meters within the village as Badger meters. So since nearly all of them are, we're not recommending that price quotes from other brands be solicited, and therefore we are requesting a waiver of bidding as part of this resolution. Staff requests that the board adopt the resolution to purchase water meters and associated supplies from Midwest Meter, Inc. on an as-needed basis not to exceed $252,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tyler?
That's an easy one.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve
It's a
the
good one,
resolution?
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim.
You bet.
Trustee Benton.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
And Trustee Greenberg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Are we sure we don't want to talk about it further? Okay.
Thank
okay.
you.
Just a little levity there.
Don't be mean.
Items for discussion by the mayor and board of trustees. We have a couple of fun events coming. One is Cop on the Rooftop on May 16th at Dunkin' Donuts. What are the hours of that? 5 to noon. Wonderful. Public Works Open House on May 17th at the Public Works Building from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then a couple of other things. First of all, I want to congratulate our board again, those who were reelected, and Jesse for your first election. Congratulations.
And congratulations to the mayor
Thank
for
you.
his reelection as well.
Absolutely.
Right near where I live is LeClaire Estates. Tyler just mentioned that. There were, how many buildings, Tyler? 4 huge buildings that were demolished over the course of the last couple of months. And that demolition by Alpine and supervised by our staff went flawlessly. Unbelievable. The amount of debris, the amount of building, the amount, everything, it was great. There was very little dirt flying in the air. There was very little disturbance. Even the demolition itself wasn't that loud. You guys did a great job. Now all it is rubble that the trucks are taking away, but it was a really, really well done job.
Good.
So thank you. And we will have a little presentation for Rebecca Metz Childers when she's in town. We'll do a proclamation for her and a recognition of her service here. But I want to, in her absence, thank her for her time on the board. She provided us with a lot of wonderful wisdom and insight, communication techniques, really bright and valuable contributor during her tenure. That's what I got. Yeah.
Just want to let the board know and the community know we're going to be, so the parking lot next to Domino's, Rosemary and Deerfield Road, right? We have to seal that and stripe that every few years. That's going to start. We're going to do half of it tomorrow and half of it next Tuesday. We've talked to the businesses. We're trying to pace it out, but that's kind of a pain in the tail thing that's going to affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
So know that that's coming, but our group has been in touch with the businesses there, and we're trying to, again, we own that corner parking lot. That's a public parking lot, so we got to take care of that. So we're going to be doing that this week and then next week. So thanks to Tyler and his team. We're trying to do that in a smart way.
I now ask for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C5.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Sure.
Trustee Benton.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
Trustee Greenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Motion passes.